So hello leaders, are you ready to dive into the real world of team building? Welcome to the Ultimate Offsite. I'm Chloe Temple, the founder of the Ultimate Offsite, and in today's episode we're going to dive into the truth about team building. In this video, we're going to look at what typically goes on when planning an offsite and where leaders will often fall short. We might recognize some of these scenarios, the initial excitement, the logistical puzzles, and yes, the last minute panics. This episode is all about the journey from concept to execution. So, should we dive in? So I'm going to share a little bit about the kind of journey that a leader might go on from deciding that they're going to run a team event to actually running it. I'm going to invite you to say if what of this feels familiar. At the start, when we think, all right, I'm going to do one, this is going to be great. What's going through our minds as leaders is, oh, right, I feel energized. It's very high energy at the start when we're kind of like, oh, this is going to happen. We're going to get this date in the diary. What date should we do? What date can most of the team do? Right at the start, we're thinking about more these logistic things. What's the date? Where shall we do it? We might book the venue. We might try and work out what our budget is, but we're feeling really good about it. We think, okay, yeah, this is really going to be great. And what ends up happening is you pick that date, you lock that in, you might put the placeholder in everyone's diary. And then you're like, I'll sort out what we actually do in the middle a little bit later. Is that familiar? Getting some nods. Okay, good. What then generally happens in the middle after you've set the date is you start to think, oh gosh, actually it's creeping up on me. I've thought I'd be a little bit more prepared. And you start to think about, well, what should we do? How do we fill that venue or that space? And you start to ask yourself and possibly even your team, what should we do that would be fun? What activities could we do? You might put a poll out to the team when you get some suggestions back. Someone suggests axe throwing or lawn bowls was big whilst I was in Australia. Lawn bowls, ceramic painting, pottery. Someone might be like, let's just go for dinner. Let's just go for a nice dinner. Or actually, let's just go for drinks. That often comes up. We'll do the drinks at the end. You're still thinking, okay, yeah, but what's going to happen? What's going to happen before that thing that we go-karting? What's that thing that we're going to do at the end that's going to be really fun for the team? Does that sound familiar? Does anyone do that? Yeah. Okay. And you suddenly start thinking, well, actually a day is quite a long time. What are we going to do before that? And so often you'll start to, this is where I get the call many times, is start to think, oh, who actually can help me fill this time, fill these hours before that thing that you've decided that you're going to do, the fun activity at the end. It might be that you look internally, you ask Jane from a different department to present on a particular project. There might be a team member in your team that you're like, oh, they can present on that. That might be interesting for the team. You probably allocate yourself something at the beginning. You re-engage on the strategy or the vision or the goals or something like that. You'll put yourself up front in the agenda, or at some point in the agenda, you'll be like, I'll do something around that. And you might think, okay, well, actually, I don't want to just have the team listening to people present or me present at them, but we'll do some sort of team building exercise. Maybe I'll Google that later. You might even look, if you're not looking outside external for an external facilitator or support or speaker, you might be looking internal. Reach out to HR and see who can help me fill this massive time to help my team or whatever it is that I think that the team needs. Does that sound familiar, that middle piece? Yeah, okay. Getting a lot of nods, not necessarily for all. And if it's not for you, feel free to pop in the chat what your experience of that middle section is. Generally towards the end, the week before, it's where the panic sets in for a lot of us. Maybe not panic is a little bit of a strong word, but we're like, oh, it's next week. And I said I was going to do this, or have I really nutted this out? A lot of leaders will, as I say, set themselves up with some time to do something like strategy or roles and responsibilities. And they start to think, oh my God, I haven't even worked out what that is for myself, let alone be able to share it with the team. I haven't even done that work. And this is where you can have some late nights or a bit of stress that comes in because you're like, it's going to have to happen because we've got this date. And I've even seen instances where it's actually been moved because the team leader's just been like, I'm a bit overwhelmed by this thing that's coming up. I've got so much other things on my plate. I want to make the most of the team coming together. So actually won't move the date. You also have things that come up where you might have been hoping to get everyone in person together, but actually then one person can't come. And then it turns into a hybrid that often will come up, and you are like, how am I going to maintain this being still inclusive for everyone? How am I going to manage this? Also, it might be that you haven't briefed the team and you just put that placeholder in and you're like, oh, the team don't actually know what we're going to be doing here. I should probably give them some heads up. Is there some sort of prep work that they should be doing? Or probably not. We'll just go. And it's going to really shift the team forward. As a leader, you often, and not always, but often suddenly being like, I just can't wait for this to be over, frankly. It's a bit stressful and I hope it goes well. Does that sound familiar for anyone? I'm seeing some nods. And that's a wrap. I wonder how much of that felt like familiar territory. Excitement and energy shifting into stress and anxiety as the date creeps up on you. The pressure is on to deliver. It's a lot easier to say, let's go out for drinks or a really fancy dinner. But is that actually going to step change what your team needs? See, with the right strategy and a darn good plan, your team events don't have to be a source of stress. Better yet, they have the power to transform your team's trajectory. I've seen this happen over and over and over again. This channel is really created for leaders exactly like you to do just that. See, if you found this valuable, I have a small request. Please hit the subscribe button before you go. This enables us to create more content for you to elevate your team events. Thanks for watching, and here's to you creating the offsite advantage at your next team event.